what we'll do is we'll just put hands on hips.
Yeah.
Counter movement jump. So arms can.
We're on.
Well, we do. It depends who I'm working with.
Yeah, yeah.
What I'll look at. So arm drive and counter movement jump, that can actually help with people with an asymmetry imbalance. So it actually helps you balance more in the air.
Yeah. When
you're localising hands on the hips, you're more isolating of the lower limb.
Yeah.
Sort of arguments for using arm drive would be it mimics when we run and jump.
Yeah, yeah.
Our arms ultimately dictate the speed of our legs. Okay. So we'll go with lower, or we'll hands on hips first. Nice and tall, nice and stiff through the middle. It's a counter movement, it's not a squat. So you're gonna come in and out fast, stick.
Got you.
So we're looking at a few different things here.
You're looking for a soft landing or just literally?
I want to see how well you stick the landing, and I'll tell you why.
Right.
Because there is.
It's supposed to be quite solid with that.
Yeah, you want to be solid, you want to absorb the flow, and for good reason.
See, I'm nervous now because I used to be half decent at these. I don't see what I've got in this.
So have a practice one first. Get a feel for it. Off we go. Not bad, not bad. Right. So we'll go for real, and then we'll have a little talk over it. Off we go. Good. So it's telling us that you jumped 41 centimeters with your hands on your hips, which isn't bad.
I think that's roughly what I was getting.
Considering you just admitted the fact that you've never ever bothered with that.
Yeah.
I would look, so this is the difference. So in some places they would simply look and go, that's your height.
Yeah.
But what we've got to look at, there's a lot more data we can pick out of this and we can nitpick. Not to mention the difference in left to right leg as well. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of information there, everything from propulsive phase, which is when you come out of that initial counter movement and you start to drive through the hip. So to see, you know, we've got braking force, flight time, everything. So things like, we look at the height, but also what I'm very interested in with some of my research is braking force. So your ability to hit the brakes and deal with what's coming through each limb. Braking force and deceleration play key parts in football. So football in itself is Accel, Decel.
Yeah.
You've got to imagine how much your body tears itself apart. If you say if you're an outfield player, for example, maximum, so you accelerate, and then you absolutely putting the brakes on, dead stop, re-accelerating.
Yeah.
You know, when people were in the lockdown phase and you had people who just couldn't train, the one thing I warned a lot of my players about was it's your lack of exposure to Accel, Decel.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that's going to create a problem. And whether that be hamstrings, quads, you know, knee problems, it's going to create an issue.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about being light soft landing, when we look at your ability to hit the brakes and stop, they're actually, it's something that we look very closely at now. So my research and my PhD is actually considering a few different things: asymmetries, deceleration, and fatigue. Yeah. Because actually, what a lot of research I've looked into is there's a limit. In fact, there's a limit, or very, very limited, if nothing, on how fatigue affects asymmetry and decel. Yeah. So I'm looking at everything from, I'm putting together sort of like a block of testing eventually. Yeah. Working with my sort of supervisors. I am going to focus on females because there's very little research on female footballers on this area. Yeah. But when we're looking at this, the force plate, so say for example a player come in the other day and he was struggling with I think it was a right knee, and his braking force was quite low on the right leg. Yeah. So I've got to then start to investigate, well, what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, and it's a case of, yes, he's right-footed, so he plants the floor predominantly with his left leg, he decelerates on the left leg. So now I've got to start to look to put in some form of robustness work through that right limb and encourage better deceleration.
What sort of stuff would you do for that?
Yeah, a lot of stopping drills, a lot of sort of braking drills, i.e. sort of little single leg drop jump type stuff, exposure that way to really emphasise, obviously stabilising through the glutes, hamstrings and quads as well, but from a sort of stopping perspective, nothing where he's running and hitting the brakes. That would come later on. It's sort of lower level sort of braking
like
away.
isolating the sort of
just sort of
itself,
like you're sort of coming from a sort of almost like you're decelerating into like split squats and different things like that. So there's loads of drills on deceleration that you can implement. We've just got to find what works. So it's not just right, we've looked at your height and this is how high you jump, this is your vertical force. There's a lot more we look into. So we can save that. Right, you got another one to do.
Come on then. What you had? What's the height?
I
remember Rolando was something stupid.
Murph hit about a 69 centimetre vertical jump.
69?
But he came in and he was hitting probably mid to late 50s.
Yeah.
And then we did a lot of sort of speed, high velocity exposure work, and
that's ridiculous.
He hit about 69. Right, off you go. Good.
Step off. I think you tend to think too much about your technique and stuff like that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, trying to go wider, narrow, whatever it is.
What goalkeeper, you probably had it ingrained into you what your stance should be.
Yeah.
Sometimes I tend to find goalkeepers go a little bit too wide. And then the knee comes in and then you're not really pushing off with much force.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, your power stance, simple way sometimes of doing it is having a little jump in the air and how you land.
How you land, yeah.
That's how you sort of adopt it. But a lot of people are here, and it's all to do with hip position, glute stiffness.
It's the same with like squatting, everyone's got different squat positions, don't they?
So, and like I said, I think it's, first and foremost, it's not, you're not going to get perfection here. It just doesn't work, but you've just got to try and critique and fine tune, and that's the sort of way I sort of look at my job. I'm almost like an F1 pit team.
Yeah.
We're just, you know, critiquing, it's not coming in, let's start chucking a lot of weight around, shouting the ball and being like what probably you would class as like you sometimes see in American football, weight rooms, you know, it's
psyching people up.
We're a little bit more reserved in here, being British, but it is about critiquing and fine-tuning. We get a lot of speed guys in here, we get a lot of sprinters, and it's looking at races, for example, with the sprinters and trying to look at how they're accelerating out the blocks, right? What strength inequalities have they got that we need to try and build in order to improve their acceleration phase coming out the block. To, you know, I've just worked with a player, Premier League player on the pitch, and I said to him, I watched your last game of the season, can you explain to me why you were running in this fashion? Because I make mental notes when I watch players, and then I try and critique it. And I've been working on arm drive on the pitch with them, with sleds and different things. You know, sprinting and running is a skill. We don't tend to teach it in other sports other than athletics. So we just accept people run. And you see in football, and you'll see it yourself, different positions.
People used to critique Ronaldo's technique because he was very side to side.
He's very short strided. You know, and it's when you want to accelerate big, powerful strides until you get it at that top end speed. I mean, on average, I think the stat was it's about 19 yards before, on average, a player will decelerate and change direction in a game of football. So they're really not always going to hit top end unless you're a fullback. And that's another thing when we move on to testing hamstrings. Hamstring health is huge because of how we train in football and how the lack of conditioning and running conditioning, the right stuff, will end up with hamstring issues. And weirdly enough, we just did a bit for the Chronicle on, or the guys did here, about a possible signing or for Newcastle United and the hamstring issues that he's suffering. So we'll have a little bit further talk about that. Right, we've got one more counter movement jump, and then we're going to look at how reactive you are off the floor.
Nice. I reckon I've got quite a few asymmetries because I've still.
To be honest, everybody does. We're born with them, you know. And there's this idea of like 15% and above is high risk. There's more research now trying to sort of contradict that as well. So that's, you know, the job of guys working in performance sport is you've got to be research, and you've got to look at journals and whatever that's been going around
Yeah.
to try and make the best out of your data. And you know, I think the way we look at it is, without sort of saying this is a waste of time, testing for me is always about guiding the athlete. It's not about holding them up and saying you're not this, you're not that, you're not strong enough, you're not quick enough. No, this is your story, this is where you are. And it's the information really is for the guys in the weight room and in the performance jobs to say, right, I've looked at what we've found and this is what I'm proposing we're going to do about it. And so it depressurises the athlete and go, it's not your issue, you are what you are where you are, we're all genetically different.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm going to prepare to do about it.
Yeah.
And then you test and review again. But ultimately performance isn't always dictated to on the GPS, the jumps, or anything like that. It's how well did you do on the pitch, on the track.
That's the main thing. That's what people judge you on, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's how you measure performance. In essence, when you become at that elite level, did you win? And if you didn't, you've got to then look back and as a team, rather than just saying, oh, it's the physio's fault, it's the S&C coach. The football coach comes out, they're not fit enough. That's deflecting. What you need to do, in my opinion, is as a performance team, you come together and you nitpick and go, right, what went well, what didn't go well.
Yeah.
You're saying we're not fit enough, but we didn't keep the ball well enough. So actually, the running stats is through the roof.
Yeah.
So that, you know, you've got to look at things like that, and I think, you know, testing is important. It's important to the individual, but it's not about saying this is who you are and this is where you are. It's compared to Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah.
It is, this is what I've found, and this is what I'm proposed we're going to do about it.
Yeah.
And we're going to come back in 8 weeks' time, and we're going to retest some areas. Because it's about guiding the program, guiding development.
That's why the data is so important, because especially even with on-pitch stuff, there's the amount of data they can collect these days is ridiculous. So
sometimes it becomes a little bit too much. I think it's everything's data driven now. If you look at the stats on Sky Sport, it's just stats.
Yeah, there's some stats you don't even realise you can get.
And it's like, you know, if you go back years upon years in the earlier days, you know, that wasn't a big thing. It was did you win or did you lose, and that's it. Did he play well? Did he not? You know, yes, it's good for recovery and helping manage injuries, or it should be, but sometimes it isn't. And the data's there, it's collated. The question I would ask is it used? Or is it just, we did it anyway? So say, for example, the Premier League have a testing procedure that goes around all the clubs. What are they actually doing with that data? And what are the clubs doing with that data? Are they doing anything at all with that data? Or is it just, we do it?
Just to show off, really.
Testing for testing's sake. Yes, I'm all about testing. I'm all about finding a plan and a route. It's like getting in the car. You don't know what, you've got to go somewhere. You've never been before. I don't have a map and I don't have a sat nav. How are you going to get there? You know, that's the way I deem the testing. It's the sat nav and the map to try and get us from this point in your development to this point. But it's not plain sailing. You know, I don't know if you've ever seen that sort of meme where this is where they want to be, this is where they're at, and it's just like, it's...
But realistically, it's...
there's peaks and troughs, and it's the same in here. You know, when it comes to testing, I always try to sort of put it in people's head, it's not about PBing all the time. Because you're playing a sport where you might be fatigued, you might have had a knock, you might have had this, you might have had that. It's just about being consistent and trying to have consistency. And it's great when you hit a PB, but I'm not expecting it every time. And especially in a youth development type athlete who is growing, the weights shifting all the time, you know, and there's other growth related issues going on. I am not expecting like PB on all tests, even with a full-time athlete. Really, it's about making sure we keep them on the pitch. That is the primary goal of this. But it's also reasoning. And when somebody says, well, he isn't quick enough, he's got slower, he's this, that, and the other, well, actually, there's the data that suggests different. So it actually can back up young guys in academies as well, and we've done that in the past, especially with growth monitoring, because we do that as part of We're testing with the younger guys is we do all the PHV stuff, and then that PHV helps again guide us what we can do in the weight room with them.
That's one thing I struggled with again. So many injuries with growth things, knees, like that severs in your heel. I used to get back injuries.
Lads are always going to have that struggle more than women. Always, and it is a we'll see it on a weekly basis in here, and we have to then adapt and deal with it. And sometimes we'll readapt the session and go, well, actually, let's do a few little tests and see where we're at. Let's have a look at you, check your growth over, and we'll go onto the system and check your PHV and where you're at. And then we're going to deload your quads and we're going to work on this to help with whatever problem you've got.
I would have loved that because there was loads of issues I had. I remember it was when I was 15, 16, it was an issue for about, I would have said, solid 6-7 months in my hip. I didn't understand what it was. I thought it was just one of them things. But if I've got someone back me up saying, right, you've actually grown this much in this amount of time, that could be linked to that. I just thought it was just me being, because I was injured all the time anyway. It was a mental thing as well. I didn't want to speak out about it.
So you're probably, when you've hit up your growth, where you've been a big lad, you've probably had a good stretch. And it can cause a whole host of problems. And not to mention when you're striking through balls as a keeper. So that long lever, the ball at the end of it, the stress at the top of the hip continuously. How many times, how often did you strike a ball in training? Every single week? Who monitored?
Ridiculous amount of time. And I was out early.
Why wasn't it deloaded? So you're out early. Question would be, how much preparation did you have before you went out and started striking balls?
None really.
And this is another thing I get to with people about repetition. High repetition doesn't mean quality. Low repetition, training with purpose, gives quality. If you're not training with purpose, it's like coming in here, right, I'm doing 1,000 rep challenge, why? That's the first question I ask, why are you doing that?
They'll test your mental toughness, that's about it.
Somebody else did it and there's no reason why. It's like, I've got a young player who comes in and he is a phenomenal athlete. He is very addicted to training. However, you'll get up in the morning and be like, right, I'm doing 2 hours of shooting. Right? Why are you doing 2 hours?
I used to have that because I felt like I needed to do. I'm still like that now. I feel like I need to do something. Like even if it's like just stretching, but like
it's training with purpose. But it might be just doing small and often with high quality. So it could be a high quality movement pattern. So I said to the particular lad, I said, right, you've got a shooting drill to do. We've got to try and monitor how much output you're having. You need to decrease your workload. What I want you to do is just put a bucket at the end of the garden, and I want you to chip a ball into that 10 times, or a goal, or whatever. Just take 10 shots with a particular aim in a particular area I want you to work on. Not 2 hours, 10 high quality shots. Because I said, realistically in the game, you're not going to stand there for 2 hours belting the ball at the back of the net.
That's going to replicate a game though, because you might only have 10 of these opportunities.
But it keeps that high quality side of things in place, and it's not just when high volume comes and repetition, the quality decreases dramatically. And it's the same in the weight room. And it's like, I've said to guys, like, they come in and they're all like, I want to do this, I want to be running here, I want to be vomiting here, I want to be, and I'm like, right, we'll just hold you right there. Because that's fine, I can do that in about 15 minutes. But do you want to be a better footballer? Or do you want to be a better athlete? Or a better rugby player? Right, this is what we're going to be doing. And start to get them to think differently about their training. You know, sadly, within this sort of country, CrossFit and S&C get mixed together, and they're just so very far apart, it's beyond belief. You know, and we've had a few guys who've come in and like, you know, I used to do CrossFit, and I'm like, well, I'm not a CrossFit gym. And as soon as I start doing the assessment, they're like, I see what you mean. You know, we're nerds who lift weights. That's the best way of putting it. But I mean, let's have a look at your next test, and we're going to look at a velocity drop jump test. What we do in here is we'll base the height based from the level of the athlete. So we might start off on a 20, progress to 30 and 40. 40 is the standard height from a drop jump. Okay. Now there is what we're going to do today. We're going to do a double leg landing, but the plates will individually measure each limb. That said, if I wanted to really figure out what's going on left to right leg, I would make you do it on one leg, one leg alone. From a safety perspective, because I haven't trained you before, I'm going to go.
I'd be worried about my right knee might give way.
I'm going to go double limb. It's actually a skill level as well. I mean, believe it or not, work with a lot of high-end professional guys who can't even land on one leg and spring off. It takes so long for them to react, stabilise and get off the floor. The plates just don't want to read it. So it's a case of we're going to do double limb. We're going to place our hands on the hips. And hopefully you're faster than me. So we'll go to a lump. We're going to drop. Make sure that the left foot hits the left plate, the right foot hits the right plate. Get off the floor as fast as you can. So stiff in the middle, almost like a pogo stick, Drop. And then absorb the landing.
Got you.
Then step off. Off you go, drop.
Come on, the last time I've done anything reactive
so there's
like
about, if we look at peak landing force, your ability to sort of deal with the landing, your left is producing 15.28% more in newtons than your right. So in that in football, are you right side dominant?
Right foot,
so you're always planting. Would you take off your left foot when you go to take off to drive for a ball?
Probably, And if I was jumping naturally, I'd want to lift me right knee, so I'd push up. So
we all naturally have asymmetries, and this is what I'm sort of getting at. But what sports will do is will have a profound effect on it. In some cases, some sports have a benefit from having a large asymmetry. So maybe golf, one of them. You know, they wouldn't just turn and change how they, right, I'm going to drive a ball one way and then I'm going to switch my stance. So having a large asymmetry that way maybe allows them to drive the ball further and harder, producing more force. So there is, in some cases, where maybe having those asymmetries are beneficial to the sport, possibly. You know, but then we have to weigh that up and going, well, yes, he drives the ball great distances, but what risk is that?
He's back snapping at some.
But we don't know that. I mean, if he's strong, he's strong. He just, you know, it's not that straightforward. And this is what I'm sort of saying when it comes to the testing and looking at data. It's not always straightforward. It takes you time to go away and look at things really closely. And as an S&C guy, if I've got the beauty of having some actual footage of the athlete, so say I wanted to work on somebody's running, so I made notes on the last play I was in on his running in the last Premier League game he played, because it was on Sky, so I made some notes because I knew I'd be having him in the off season. Right, what's the one thing above all, you know, about being a Premier League footballer? It's about speed. It's a speed of skill and speed of movement. So I have to look at him and go, right, how can we squeeze more out of him? And if that means just looking at his technique and running, then that helps. Then I take the test data and I link it all in, and then I try and critique a program. And it's a program that's not set in stone. It can change day by day, and it can change based on what I find or the athlete's response. If the athlete doesn't respond well to it, I change it. If he's responding well to it, I keep evolving it. So, but it has to start with this side of things, you know. And it's, some athletes might find it boring, but it is what it is. It has to be done. You know, if you want to go somewhere, don't just train for training's sake is the key thing. Right, so that's a bit of an idea of some of the stuff we do on the force plates. There's a whole host of different things. We can do rebounds, we can do work in the squat racks from a isometric force side of things. There's a whole host. I mean, we probably could do hours of video just on what we can do with the force plates, but I thought when you've been talking about your knee health, we can't take out hamstrings. Right, so when we talk about hamstrings, you know, you'll know fine for a fact, number one injury in football. Out of about 250 million people that play it. Number one re-injury rate as well. And that can come from a few things, but predominantly lack of appropriate rehab. So first and foremost, when we're coming in here and we're testing, I want to find exactly what's going on. You know, it's something that we'll always make a point of and working on a weekly basis. Looking at hamstrings and condition them both in the gym and on the pitch. When you're looking at football and you're looking at the injuries that relate, you know, or the causes, you know, there's ultimately any muscle tear is all related to inability to deal with force. So and most injuries are. If I clattered with you in a challenge as a goalkeeper and your ACL snaps, you can't deal with my external force. As is, somebody runs top end speed and the hamstring goes, it tears. It tears because it's literally moving at such high intensity, it doesn't have a chance to recover and relax. That's where it tears through. And again, it can't deal with force being produced. So why robustness is absolutely paramount and strength is paramount. It will underpin it all. So when we're looking at football and you look at outfield players, for example, a lot of times they'll be spent in small areas. So little short bursts, doesn't engage the hamstring effectively. Yet then they go out onto a game and start with hamstring trouble. You know, you look at your fullbacks and different things there, starting to get the hamstring issues, people starting to feel it, but because they're not exposed to that scenario in weekly training, as well as not all clubs, but we'll see a lot of people where it's squats followed by squats followed by squats, and it's like, right, but they're going to get enough quad development, and that's where the lower back's kicking. Knee, ACLs, everything that good healthy hamstring is real paramount to this. So what we're going to look at with the hamstring solo is it's a force plate, and it'll measure left to right hamstring. It will flag asymmetries. It will give me a peak in average data output on your hamstrings. So what we're going to start with first is an isometric. So we're going to have isometric just at 90 degrees. So there's different angles we can look at. We look at 120s, 90s, and so on. We're going to go with a simple 90-degree angle. So what I want you to do is place your hands onto the floor. So we're looking at 90-degree angle at the knee. So when I tell you, you are simply going to pull your heels as hard as you can. And keep your hands on the floor. Try not to move forward or back. And we're gonna do 3 reps. We're gonna stay in that position. So I'll tell you when to work and when to relax. Off you go. Pull, pull, pull. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Relax.
Camera died on but we were halfway through we did the isometric. We've done the eccentric already. Don't know if you can get the data up from the.
Let's have a look, because I might have I can get it up on.
To be fair, I've got it on I've recorded it on my GoPro, so the footage will still be there. So isometrically, my left one was a lot weaker, wasn't it?
You're talking high risk. You're talking, in essence, it would red flag. So if I transport that data to the spreadsheet, it would automatically red flag you because it's above a 15% discrepancy. So, but it's something where you're never going to get perfect symmetrical balance. So it is something to just be aware of from that side of things. So whereas your eccentrics
not too bad,
were fairly balanced. So you're looking only at 6%, give or take 7%. You're punching into 400s in regards to newtons. So that wouldn't be an area that I would be of concern about. I'd be more about just getting the general strength and health up in the isometric and maybe some concentric work in the hamstring. Whereas the eccentrics seem to be.
It's probably because I'm so used to doing numbers. Because my training's more bodybuilding specific. It's very slow, 4-second eccentric sort of thing. So that's probably the reason why I'm so strong on that.
That's why it's conditioned that way.